To mark the 200th anniversary of the founding of the town of Greece, the Greece Historical Society presents a Bicentennial Snapshot. Each week we take a look at a particular aspect of Greece history. This week we continue with part 2 of the War of 1812 on the Greece shores of Lake Ontario. During the overnight of September 10, 1813, the British fleet with the American fleet in pursuit covered 60 miles as they sailed eastward from Fort Niagara, arriving just west of Braddock Bay as the sun rose on September 11. The fleets were 9 miles apart. As the wind began to die down, British Commander Sir James Yeo sailed close to shore, perhaps to try to catch a land breeze, but he was becalmed off Braddock Bay at 9 a.m. The British hoisted as much sail as they could and put some men into rowboats to haul their ships away from the Americans, hoping to find a breeze to allow them to escape. At 2:30 p.m., just offshore of Charlotte, American commander Isaac Chauncey and his fleet had closed to within 3/4 of a mile of Yeo, putting him in long gun range. The flagship Pike and the Sylph began to fire their cannons at the British fleet. The bombardment lasted 90 minutes. Unlike the majority of ships in the American fleet on Lake Ontario, the Sylph was not a converted merchant vessel. It was a schooner built to strengthen Commodore Chauncey's squadron on Lake Ontario. It was laid down on 26 July 1813 at Sackett's Harbor. She saw her first action during the September 11, 1813 engagement at the mouth of the Genesee River. Peter Spicer, a midshipman aboard the Sylph, made this sketch of the naval action on that day. David White, who became a resident of Charlotte after the war, served on the Sylph. He is buried in the Charlotte Cemetery on River Street and is the only naval veteran interred there. Unfortunately, due to the poor maneuverability of most of the American ships, the American fleet was not able to press its advantage, and the British were able to escape when they finally caught a land breeze. One historian has said that Lake Ontario was the most important war theater of the conflict because whichever side gained supremacy of the lake would have a ready channel of communication, an unimpeded conduit to move supplies and troops, and an entrance to the enemy's territory. For 2 years, Commodores Isaac Chauncey and Sir James Yeo maneuvered for control of Lake Ontario. Neither was willing to engage the other without a clear chance of victory. When one seemed to have the upper hand, the other would hole up in his shipbuilding headquarters, Sackett's Harbor and Kingston, respectively, and they would build a larger flagship. When they met at the mouth of the Genesee River on September 11, 1813, it was only their second direct engagement with each other. Their contest for Lake Ontario ended in a draw. While neither became the supreme lord of the lake, they each prevented the other's country from invading their land. After the peace treaty was ratified, Chauncey hosted a dinner for Yeo and his officers at Sackett's Harbor in late March 1815. The meeting was so amicable that Yeo prolonged his visit for several days. Thanks for joining us this week. Next time we conclude our coverage of the War of 1812 and its impact on Greece. This is Maureen Whalen, inviting you to join us next Tuesday for another Bicentennial Snapshot presented by the Greece Historical Society.
Want to learn more from the Greece Historical Society and Museum? Then click that subscribe button for more content and hit that bell icon to get notified when there's more Bicentennial Snapshots. You can visit us on the web at GreeceHistoricalSociety.org. You can find us on Facebook at Greece Historical Society. You can follow us on Twitter at GreeceNYHistory. And you can stop in at the Greece Historical Society at 595 Long Pond Road.